it's about the conversation and what would be realized during that conversation. So what you get in this back and forth conversation with these inanimate objects could be pretty fascinating. So I am super interested to try it in a real world, a real example situation. Especially when I'm thinking about design or redesign or other products that will complement it. I think the conversation part of it is where the most interesting part is going to come in, when you actually start a dialogue, not just like a one-off question.
I'm Sarah Nagel. I've spent my career leading research and product development within some of the world's largest brands.
And I'm Chad Reynolds. I'm a serial entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Verve.
And this is AI Powered by People.
Each episode will dive into the latest AI developments and talk to an industry leader to help you better understand and utilize AI.
We'll take you inside some of the world's most famous companies and share examples of how AI is improving innovation, consumer engagement, media, and marketing.
No matter what industry you work in, we'll help you navigate one of the biggest disruptions to organizations and people today.
Hey, Chad, how's it going?
Hey, Sarah, I'm doing great. It's awesome to spend time again with you in Brooklyn.
In Brooklyn and the Navy Yard. We were just at Smart Design for an event where we collaborated with them, and it was awesome. You were up on stage talking about agents. We had a fantastic panel. Yeah, it was really great.
I met a lot of great people, and then we had everybody download this new mobile app we've been working on, where you can build out your own Verb, which is an AI agent, collaborate with them, and come up with some pretty killer ideas.
Yeah, and then we also recorded the this week's interview at Smart, which is really thanks to them for letting us do that. You'll hear some potential dogs in the background because the office is rad, where they let folks bring in their dogs to the office, and I got the grand tour. I don't think you didn't get the grand tour when you got there.
No.
From the CEO Davin. He walked me around, showed me some old photographs. It was. They moved there in 2020 during the pandemic, and so they had to build out everything that was in the space. It was this huge warehouse space in the Navy Yard, and there was nothing in there. And so they basically built these like large houses within it. So I got to see all of that stuff and kind of see what it used to. They used to build large boats in there, and they had to get their plans approved by the National Park Service because the Navy Yard is part of the national parks, which is kind of crazy. So anyways, it was really cool, but so just be forewarned, there may be dogs barking in the interview this week.
But that wasn't because of the dogs were there. It was like they were working on some unique projects that involved dogs.
Yeah.
Right?
They used dogs as subjects for the research, which is fun.
Yeah.
So that was really great. It was a fantastic event. We also interviewed Dan Formosa while we were there, and Dan Formosa, he was an early one of the designers that helped start Smart Design, also a trailblazer in the world of research and universal design. He has a PhD in ergonomics and biomechanics, and spent a lot of time working on products you might have in your house, like the OXO peeler, the Good Grips peeler. He also hosts a series on Epicurious called Well Equipped, where he tests out kitchen gadgets and talks about how to improve them. I watched one.
I'm addicted now. That's what I was doing last night.
Yeah. Which one did you watch?
The deep fryer, or like frying foods. Trying out 5 different gadgets to try, to fry foods.
Yeah, it's so fun. I watched pizza cutting today, where he had all these different gadgets that cut pizza.
Yeah.
Some are good and some are not good.
If you're on your next Delta flight, try to find the show on there so you can watch from the back of your seat.
So he's been at the forefront of inclusive design, so really thinking about people of all abilities and how they use products, which comes out in this well-equipped show. And he wants, he really has this purpose of designing products that are easy to use for everybody. So it's a really awesome interview that we'll get into. So stick around for that, where we talk about agents and kind of brainstorm possibilities for them in the future.
Yeah. But a quick shout out to Annie and Kathy, because, Annie, who was on our last episode around, what if your products could talk? I've had just a lot of feedback around just this whole concept of bringing kind of the invisible or inanimate objects to life. So just a lot of great feedback from that. And also Kathy from Kenview sharing more insights around how she and her teams are implementing consumer personas and ideation agents as a part of their innovation process. So it was, just a lot of really positive feedback on some of the most recent episodes and guests around, applying it into real life spaces. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, it has been great. And also a special thanks to Kathy again, too. She participated in the event with us, and she was on the panel and talking about the work that they're doing at Kenview. So thanks again,
Cool.
Kathy.
So Sarah, do we have anything coming up?
We do have something coming up. So we'll be in Boston January 14th. We're going to be partnering with Other Tomorrows, which is a design innovation studio in Boston. And we're going to be bringing together creative folks in different industries throughout Boston to do an event very similar to the one that we did in Smart, where we're going to have we're going to talk about agents. We're going to have some really great discussions around the possibilities. So we're looking forward to that one. All right, well, let's get to the headlines. And again, we have Rex Reportwell, who is our news anchor that's going to be reading us the news.
Hold on to your hats, folks, because Google's DeepMind just unleashed GenCast, an AI weatherman that's making eerily accurate 15-day forecasts. It's even giving the world-renowned European Center for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts a run for its money. This begs the question: with AI's reach expanding into weather prediction with such precision, are we witnessing the dawn of a new era in meteorology?
I would say yes.
Oh,
right?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you want this on screen or like the bottom of your, whenever I live in Ohio. So I feel like every other week there's like tornado warnings and all different kinds of things from severe weather. So yeah.
Right?
Why
This is
not?
what it feels like predictive AI should be used for, is like keeping people safe. Like this feels like absolutely what it should be used for. Like, and recently there was a earthquake in California, like thinking about like, up here we get hurricanes, you hear about like volcanoes. It feels like all of like kind of those things that are happening with like the earth and weather, like we should know about. And this feels like a great application for it.
Yeah. I mean, right now, the current experience, especially when there's like a severe storm, it's like, hey, go in your basement and like you have no idea how long I'm supposed to be down there, when to go down. Is it? But, I know my exact location. It knows the storm's exact location. I don't know. It just seems like a really easy fit to change the experience. So,
What do you think that will do to? What do you think it will do to meteorologists that are like on like Channel 5 News? Do you think this is going to be like a
make them
tool
funnier?
that they'll use?
I don't know. Yeah, it'll be a tool, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, why wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't you turn it into a full-on agent that has a personality and kind of knows the weather patterns, the neighborhood, all the kind of interesting facts, so it can be kind of personalized,
And localized.
Yeah.
All right, Rex, what do you have for us?
Google's new AI model, Gemma 2, boasts impressive capabilities like image analysis and caption generation. However, its ability to identify emotions has experts raising red flags. The ethical implications are significant, with concerns about bias and potential misuse. So I pose this question: can we and should we teach AI to read human emotions?
Yeah. I mean, why not?
Yeah. I think, but I think it's also, well, yes, but I think it's just like there's like a transparency that needs to happen. Like, where is the data coming from? It's personal data. Like, even if it's like, so like emotional stuff, is that like through like micro gestures on your face? Like, how is that stuff being collected? It's like a combination of that, like what you're saying, your tone of voice, like all of those things. I think it's like making sure people are informed. So
I mean, the use case matters here, but
totally. Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of these things have already, I'd say, like been in existence, especially on like building kind of the doom scrolling feeds of like understanding topically what you're, watching, looking for, how you're reacting to it. There's a lot of like emotional models around that. Just to kind of get you in the habit, kind of the ritual habit.
it feels weird to think about like, you know, an AI like learning my emotions, but I also know that there's a lot of emotion like Hume is out there.
Right.
Hume AI, there's like these programs that are kind of understanding you, but you're also very aware of it too. So I think it's like, to your point, it's about the use case. It's about like awareness and knowing that it's collecting information. I feel like I'd feel better about that.
Yeah. I mean, I like when, you know, the agents that we build have emotions, like they express it in their voice and kind of what they're talking about. It makes it feel more believable for me. But yeah, I mean, I think part of it is detecting it in people. We already have a certain resolution, I'd say, on it. So this is just giving more resolution to it.
Obviously, it's going to happen. I mean, if, you know, it's being collected right now, I think, just so we know kind of what is in and how it will be used.
Speaking of emotion, did you get your Spotify Unwrapped yet?
I did.
Yeah.
Speaking of emotion, why? Because you're so sad.
Yeah. I mean, I've switched up my listening style. I don't know. I don't think I can claim the sad hour any longer.
Mine was a very strange, and I think it's because my kiddo listens to, you know, I use my Spotify to listen. Whoops, sorry. I was gonna see if I could pull it up. There's my top song is like an Elvis song, which I wasn't expecting.
Yeah.
What's your top song?
So top artist was Lonely in the Rain.
Well, that tracks.
I guess,
You're like, I'm totally not sad this year.
Yeah, it's totally different. And then Luca.
What's Luca?
Luca.
I'll have to listen to it.
And then there's Lost in Pacific.
That's, yep.
I'll share this with you.
Yeah, you should.
You
Yeah, my top song was Suspicious Minds by Elvis Presley.
Who knew?
Who knew? Like, it must have been on like repeat at some point. Like, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, of course I have some Band of Horses on there because my kid likes that Ghost in My House song. I know that you like that song too.
I think that's like the band that I've been to the most concerts to, like Band of Horses. Probably like 5 or 6.
Mine would be Father John Misty, who is also on my top list.
Can we bring him on a podcast?
If I could get Father John Misty on the podcast, that would be like a dream come true.
I don't even know what that is. Is that like a person, a band?
Yeah, it's a human. It's
lifestyle?
A person. It's all of those things, yes.
I love it.
All right, Rex, give us the next headline.
Well, folks, strap yourselves in because the AI arms race just got a whole lot more interesting. OpenAI is launching ChatGPT Pro, a souped-up version of its chatbot platform, for a cool $200 a month. It seems they've really gone all in on this O1 reasoning model. Now, this raises a crucial question. With this kind of pricing, is OpenAI targeting enterprise users, or are they hoping to attract a smaller group of high-paying subscribers? What do you make of this strategic move?
Yeah, I mean, Sarah, we saw this coming, I think, from like day one. I mean, just, you know, charging $20 a month for access, but then not being able to like ratchet up. Like, are you just like kind of a tourist, you know, just trying to go in and try to like test it out? Or are you actually like a power user?
Yep.
You need a way to differentiate because, you know, AI is not cheap. So as much as I think everybody wants to believe it is, it takes an incredible amount of money to train models, you know, and then use them to generate all different types of things. So, yeah, I mean, this makes a ton of sense. Like they need to come up with ways to monetize these kind of billion-dollar investments into their LLMs.
Totally. But to Rex's question, it feels like it's more for I mean, with the name Pro, it's like professional grade. It's like people who are really trying to do more powerful things that like need to move beyond the kind of the consumer model, you know, that's, you know, which will be for most people, you know, that are just kind of, you know, playing around with chat and they want to, you know, answer certain questions or start, create different GPTs. But it's like the folks that are going like, you know, if it's like coding or, you know, like they're going deep into research and they need a more powerful model.
Yeah, they're using it for work. So I think for all of us, I mean, we're in that space already. You know, primarily working with professionals who want to deploy AI that solves really big problems. if you just want to use AI to like write a song or a poem or, use it for recipes or things like that more personally. Yeah. Like those kinds of subscriptions are fine. I think for like our market, or people who are building more intensive products, services, you want the best models possibly to create amazing outputs. So makes a ton of sense.
All right. You ready to get to our interview with Dan Formosa?
This is a fun one.
I know. I mean, personally, I've known him for quite a long time, and I just have a special place in my heart for Dan. He's such a wonderful human being.
Just to really appreciate his time, and then make sure for people to stick around, and also, go on YouTube and watch a bunch of these different episodes from Epicurious. Like it was,
they're so fun.
Yeah, I mean, just breaking down products. I mean, there's something in us, like as people, that like we want to watch builders kind of share their creations and then critique and improve. I think like that's kind of part of our life, was just always being in a kind of a constant improvement area. And so I think it just has a really great way of breaking down maybe complicated concepts for everybody, which is like a core tenet of universal design.
Totally. And to expose that there's people behind the products that you use every day too. It's not just like, he talks about it, and you'll hear it in the interview where he talks about it. Some people, they don't know where like products come from, but there's lots of people and there's stories and there's lots of work that go into all the products that you use every day. And I think, through that show, he does a really good job of talking about all of those things and all the thought that goes into it. So, so that and more coming up. So you ready to jump in?
Let's go.
Well, we're here today at Smart Design, which is a different location for us because we have an event that we're doing. And we're lucky enough to have Dan Formosa here with us. So thanks for joining the podcast.
Happy to be here.
All right, so we're going to be talking a lot about AI today. We're going to be, we shared a bit of what we're doing at Verve, and we're going to kind of dive into that a bit more. But to start, if we created an AI of you today, what would its superpowers be?
Well, that's a really good question. Let me think about that. I don't know if this is a superpower, but I am interested in a lot of things, maybe too many. So a superpower for me would be able to make sense of all these different areas that I get either drawn into or distracted by, or I don't know if it's attention deficit, or if it's just I like a lot of things. So yeah, somehow making sense of that, or maybe even some sort of time control. So I spend 4 minutes on one topic without jumping to another, more than 4 minutes without jumping to another. Something in that realm, I think would, I may even like the AI better than myself. So yeah.
Well, we'll see. We should create one.
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So can you tell us a bit about your background? You have an extensive background in design, and love for the listeners to hear a bit more about that.
Yeah, my background is in product design, industrial design, at my undergraduate degree. And that's how I know Dave and Stoll. We started Smart Design together a couple of years out of college. Dave carried on. I went off at one point, after being with Smart Design for a while, I went off to get a master's degree and then a PhD in ergonomics and biomechanics, because I was always very interested in how products and people interrelate. That kind of sounds obvious now, but when I was in school initially, which goes back to the 70s, people were interested in things, but not necessarily the people who would be using those things. So there was no design research as we know it today. There were no designers sat in the studio and they drew things. They didn't have computers. They just drew things. And it was very not personal. As a matter of fact, I had a conversation just recently about how design programs are filled with artists in high school whose parents make them do something that's not art.
That's my mom.
Yeah.
She goes, "Hey, look, it's industrial design.
I think we
You're
both
not gonna
end
be
up
an artist."
Yeah, no, we both ended up there.
Yeah. But you get a lot of people who want to do, who want to express their artistic abilities, leave the people out of it. We just want to make a beautiful thing. Anyway, I was a little bit of a not radical, I was a bit of an odd duck in that program where I would say, if we're going to draw something, let's put the hand, if we're going to photo, even today, you look at product design studios or student portfolios or even competitions or awards programs, and you see pictures of products. You don't even see a hand. You don't see people. I give talks a lot and workshops a lot. And I say, what happens when you Google the word? Has anybody ever Googled the word design or industrial design? And if you do that, Google Images fills up a page with things, no people. You go to design studios and say, oh, we're all about people. You go to design schools, oh, we understand people, all about people. Go to Google Images, you don't see any people. And you type in the word industrial design or product design. And then I ask people, try industrial design 1940s. And what do you see? Same thing. Product, no people. If you do see people, it is the designer who is sitting at the desk designing something. I was very focused on bringing people into the equation, like hands and bodies. So because of that, I was always very interested in physical ergonomics, biomechanics. How does the hand work? Even today, I ask designers how the hand works. They have no idea because it's not, and very often it's not part of design education. So I went that route, got a master's degree and eventually a PhD in ergonomics and biomechanics. And as a result, when I work with design teams, I am the research guy. When I work with research teams, I'm the design guy. So somehow I'm in the middle, but it really depends on who you talk to, like where they believe I stand.
Where do you think you stand?
In the middle. I'm fine with it. See, that's this diversion that I have, right? I'm this and that, which is great to do. I'm still concerned that in the world of product design education, industrial design education, there is still no focus on people. Students at an undergraduate level don't get immersed in human behavior or psychology or physical ergonomics or gender issues or any number of issues that you would think they would. I talk at universities. Sometimes I get invited to speak at universities, and they may say, oh, we're all about people. We're different than the past. We're all about people. And I say, oh, great. Do you have any courses in psychology? And they say, no. How about courses in ergonomics and biomechanics? They say, no. I say, well, if you're not about the body and you're not about the brain, what part of the person are you about? what is left? But I think that's due for a shift. And there is work going on, but usually at higher levels, like master's degree levels or PhD levels. There's a lot of actually very interesting research going on in understanding people and understanding design and people together. So there's a lot of great work going on. It's just not happening where I think it should start at the undergraduate level.
Mm-hmm. Before we get into kind of some of the deeper questions, I'd love to hear just a little bit about your Epicurious show, because I think it explains some of your superpowers also.
I got invited years ago I got an email out of nowhere saying, I'm working with Epicurious. We'd like to come in and do a video with us. We want to test some kitchen gadgets. So I didn't answer for a while. I said, that's a little weird. And then I'm thinking, well, it's kind of summer. Was it spring? And I'm thinking, well, maybe I should get out of here and just go meet the Epicurious people. First Google Epicurious. Who are they, right? But I went there and did a video, totally improvised. And the premise was they would find these very odd kitchen gadgets and ask me to try them, unrehearsed, just kind of put them on the table. Here, try this out and tell us what you think about it. And we shot the first one. It takes like hours. It takes like a full day to shoot an episode. We shot the first one, and I was away on a trip. I was at a trade show in a conference in Las Vegas, actually. And they released it, and I saw it on YouTube, And it said, wow, it's got like a couple hundred people looking at it. Whoa. And then I looked later, wow, it's like 1,000 views on this thing. Then before I left, that trip, it was like 10,000 views. I'm going, whoa, that's amazing. Well, what? This is crazy. Turned out it got up to, I haven't looked recently, but that first video had like something like more than 7 million views.
Wow.
So, and it's totally improvised. And it's probably more than that now because I feel like I need to go back and count. But we've done almost 40 episodes. And it is strangely popular.
And
I feel like
what's the name of the show?
it is called Well Equipped.
Well Equipped.
It's on YouTube. Epicurious is the group. It's part of Condé Nast, publisher Condé Nast. And it is also on the Bon Appetit channel on cable. They show the episodes there. So I get email a lot.
Oh, you've been on a plane then. I could probably watch you on Delta.
Yeah, probably.
That's why I know him.
Yeah, I do get stopped in the street sometime and say, "Can we have a selfie?" I say, "Who are you?" Then I remember, oh yeah, sure, let's do a selfie. But yeah, they're fun to do. They're totally unrehearsed. It's a weird premise because at the end of each product, they say, "Well, how would you improve this?" And of course, you don't like improve it. It's not the way the world works, right? It takes weeks and months to figure it out.
Right.
But I give it a shot. And I must do something, right? So I say, well, curve this or change this. This should not be there. This should not even be a product. Sometimes, whose idea was this? Obviously, don't take it seriously. But what's great about it? I always put in a plug for inclusive design. Like this is okay for maybe an average person, but you have to design for the spectrum of people. Not everyone has the strength to do this or the ability to do this or the eyesight to do this. And of course, you're in the kitchen, your hands are slippery. It's chaos in the kitchen. Most of the products out there that they pick can be much better. At one point I said, we better pick some products that seem a little bit respectable because I am trashing I look like a grumpy guy. I am trashing every product and I have to rate every product at the end. And for a while, it was just like 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5, 1 out of 5. Yeah. It was just terrible. The reason that I keep at it and what I like about it and where I get the most positive comments is that I always put in a plug for designing for everybody, like inclusive design, which means designing for the spectrum. And I get a lot of email saying, thank you for considering me, or I get email from people say, I want to go into product design. I get a lot of email from 12-year-old kids, like, or, my kid loves you, so I have a feeling some of those, like 7 million views are kids watching over and over and over.
Lee Moreau just told me that his kid Outlaw is like his favorite show. You remember Lee Moreau from Other Tomorrows?
Yeah.
It's his kid's favorite show.
All right, a fan. They're really fun to do. It's not just, it's a whole crew. We shoot at the World Trade Center. It's a crew of about like 7 or 8 people. And it is, while I am the person on camera, everyone is like contributing or participating or, so they're fun to do. They're really fun to do. And it makes you realize there are a lot of products out there that just should not exist.
Why do you think that people are watching? So using some of that kind of psychology, what do you see? What do you think people see in what you're doing that is maybe reflective in their life or like the space that you're filling? Because I know like with Shark Tank, not everybody knew that was going to be a success for you to watch a person come on and struggle and then try to ask for something they probably have never done before, but it just kind of took off. It feels like you're tapping into something innate in people that like to view this.
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. One, it's the kitchen and gadgets, and they're kind of quirky and fun by themselves.
Yeah.
But also everybody can relate to the kitchen. Everyone can figure out how to do something in the kitchen or have to do something in the kitchen. And a lot of people struggle. I also think that people don't realize that products are designed by people. I believe that many people out there think that products fall out of the sky. So when I say something like, wow, the design team should have done this, suddenly that brings this thought that there are humans behind this. And people don't necessarily think that way when they see a product. They don't think that there was a team of people sitting at a table, a conference room, a studio, or something. Someone was really.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of. I never thought about that before. You know, people who are just realizing, and I think also the fact that it's improvised, or there's no rehearsal, and the fact that the products are very often terrible.
That doesn't hurt. You have something to talk about.
It's kind of fun to watch me fail, and then critique them and criticize them and try to say funny things about them. They get a following.
What was the worst product you ever tested?
There were many, because they go out of the way to find horrible products. But I think the worst thing I saw, which just made no sense, was this plastic half moon thing that you put your hamburger in so that your hands don't get dirty eating the hamburger.
Oh, that actually exists.
Of course, if you eat half the hamburger, you're stuck, because half your hamburger is now in this half moon thing that you can't bite, you can't get in, so you have to shake it. So
I remember studying that in college. They're called chindogus.
What is it?
It's like a term for a design that is just like so ridiculous. Like it's just like doesn't have like a good use. And they're just like designs that are created to like punk people, basically, is what it feels like.
It may be, because, I also say, I wish I was in the conference room during that conversation when someone said, I've got an idea.
Yeah.
Let's make this thing that you put a hamburger in, and everyone else goes, great, brilliant, let's do it. And I also give a push that whenever I come up with a thought, I say, I would try this. Very often I say, I would make a prototype. I would make some mock-ups. I think I would try this, because, that's what design is like. You don't say, bingo, I got the idea. Sometimes that may happen, but it does take steps to produce a product.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of inclusive design and universal design, how do you think AI plays in that arena? Like, do they play well? I'd love to get your thoughts on that.
Did something really surprising. A couple of months ago, I was asked to edit a journal coming out of India about design for all. And I'd written for them a while ago, but I got invited to be the guest editor of this journal. And it's about inclusive design, design for everyone. And so I wrote one article about design education and how it's really not geared for inclusive design because of, the things I said before. It's not really focused on people the way it should be. But the second article was an interview I did with Gemini, Google Gemini. And I have used Gemini before, but I used it mostly like Google. Like, ask a question, comes back, okay, good, thanks. But this time I decided what would happen if I do a complete interview. And I started out not knowing what to expect. I said, can you hold a conversation with me as if you were a person who has arthritis? And Gemini came back and said, absolutely, which I love about Gemini. It's so positive. I'm never in a meeting where I got someone say, absolutely. No, so I got that energy already. I'm with you. All right, I got a friend. What level of arthritis would you like me to have? I go, wow. Well, that's more than I expected on the first sentence. So I went through the entire conversation and I didn't stop. The article was longer than I expected because it was very revealing how the conversation is so much more interesting than a quick question and answer thing. Because you can probe, and as you probe, it comes back, and at one point you forget it's human. And I was typing because I thought talking to it would be a little too creepy. I don't know. Let me sort of start typing back instead. I don't know if I want to get into the voice thing yet because it's just a little too real. But it's tricky to remember that you're not talking to a human because the responses were coming back so human-like, like you were actually talking to another person. And it noted a lot. It knows a lot.
Yeah.
I guess that was most surprising. I realized that if you're going to approach a topic, whether you know a lot about the topic or not, or you need to get sink back into a topic, that conversation is super, super helpful, especially, eventually you want to talk to people. But to kick it off and to get your mind into that mind, whoever Gemini's mind was, and I only did it with one person. I didn't say, what about another person? What about another person? It was actually, I thought, very impressive. And again, it went on for like 45 minutes. I'm teaching a class now, and I've been teaching a class for a long time. I taught this program that's a master's degree in branding. And my course is about design research. And they are not necessarily designers. It's more like an MBA focused on brands, but my course is about design and design research, market research. And I say, if you never had a conversation with a chatbot, have an extended conversation, because that's where you realize that this is super impressive, or maybe more impressive than you would think. It is not Google. It is not a quick question and answer. You can actually carry on this very human-like conversation and sink yourself into the topic, whatever you're going to be talking to it about.
I think you're mirroring the same experience maybe Sarah and I had when we started to have extended conversations where it wasn't just quick Q&A. It kind of unlocked something in us. I'm not speak for you, but a designer where you want to design products for everybody. You want to ask questions that sometimes you maybe don't know how to say it the right way. You want to go off on a path, like as opposed to having a group conversation where it's just only one person gets to ask a question, like a focus group or something like that. And it just always felt so limiting. We gathered 8 people in a room and now only one person can talk at a time. And you don't want to disagree with people, but in that tension was usually where the gold is. And AI, like generative AI, seemed to have some of those strengths for the curious people. And it seems like you're seeing that, or starting to see that come through.
Yeah, and I would avoid a focus group at all costs.
Yeah.
Right?
You're preaching to the choir over here. So.
Yeah, Sarah knows me. One-on-one conversations are much more revealing, especially if you're talking about something personal, but no matter what. The only time I break that rule is when you have 2 people who know each other, like husband and wife or boyfriend, girlfriend or something, because you can ask a question and one person will say something and then the other person says, no, you don't. They'll start talking to themselves about disagreeing with what the other person said. No, you do it this way. No. And you can just sit back. It's a very easy interview to hold because you can just sort of ask something like a catalyst and then just let them go at it. It's very revealing. But other than that, it's one-on-one conversations. And it's like what you said, you have 8 people in a room, 7 of them are sitting there, 1 of them is talking, and you could get a lead where that person dominates or the other people follow through. And the other thing about focus groups, which is very interesting, is that you're sitting in a conference room, which is a very strange environment for people. Mm-hmm. A lot of people never sit in a conference room. So they're in this room, no windows, and it's not very...
Big mirror.
Yeah, big glass mirror where, there's some people behind the mirror. Don't worry about them. Yeah, I was saying.
They're just eating M&Ms. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, they're just eating M&Ms. So yeah, I avoid focus groups. I also avoid averaging anything. It's one of the rules I've got for my class in research. Another rule is Post-it notes are banned. Unless you're doing a shopping list, no Post-it notes in the class.
Why? I live on Post-it notes, so tell me.
Let me talk to you about this.
I despise it. But.
Well, let me say one thing. The studio that we have, the branding studio, there's a blackboard that's like the size of that wall. It's like 40 feet wide, floor to ceiling. And when I say we're not going to use Post-it notes, there is tension in the room. It's like, what? How are we going to think?
Who is this guy?
What? what do you mean? But what ends up happening is a couple of things. One, Post-it notes are tiny little ideas that get posted on the wall. You can't read them from a distance. You got to go and read one at a time. You don't see the big picture. In this giant blackboard, they end up doing these amazing visuals, graphics, visuals. This relates to that. And the reason the blackboard's important, or a whiteboard, is because you can erase. So you're not committed to anything. So you can draw something or draw a line or put in a statement, and then it's not like paper where you have to think about it twice before you start writing. Blackboard, you just write freely. So there are some, I've got photos of these amazing mind maps of projects start to finish. You realize how complex, if you're going to if you're going to create a product or start a business or start some sort of initiative or service, you realize if you start here, what you have on this blackboard is a amazing, complicated tangle of things that have to be done. When you do that with Post-it notes, you get nice rows and columns, and you can't see them from a distance, and you have to go up. Sometimes they're color-coded, sometimes they're not. But in terms of the contrast between that kind of thinking and the Post-it notes, and which is even like Figma or Miro or something like that, amazing difference. And by the time they create this amazing mind map, it's also a group activity, right? So it is, oh, move that there, let's do that. So it is sort of a team activity. I also point out that Post-it notes were invented by two guys at 3M, but I point out that the guys who invented Post-it notes didn't use Post-it notes to do it.
I'm just thinking of John Post and Jimmy Notes. They're sitting back. So like, well, maybe we did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, the medium that you use is important, right? You could see that in the history of design when they started using like markers or pastels or gouache or watercolors, whatever they were using. You can kind of see how the styles themselves were reflected by the media that was being used.
Maybe. I mean, I have a lot of Post-it. I still love them, but maybe I'll change.
Oh, I haven't. Okay, I'll send you photos. I'll send you photos of this.
I want to see
of Blackboards. They're actually pretty.
Maybe I just like the layering of it, or I like can.
I think the color.
Which one? Post-it notes?
Yeah, to like layer onto the mind map. I think that's why I like it. Maybe like it's an idea that I want to like. I don't think mine are like rows like that. It's like maybe it's just like a thing that I need to remember that stands out. I'll work on it.
Are you the kind of person who puts Post-it notes on Post-it notes?
No.
Okay, so here's a Post-it note. Oh, I got to add to that?
No.
On the Post-it?
I just read a new one.
Your Post-it notes all the same size?
No, they're all different sizes.
Okay. Do you match the Post-it size to the idea?
Generally.
Okay.
Well, we can go into Post-its.
Yeah. Okay.
This is going to be a therapy session.
This is another side. Yeah.
I just want to say, Sarah, it's good to know who I'm dealing with.
I'm a whiteboard person.
Yes.
Clearly. Our office is all whiteboards.
It's all whiteboards,
and it's like, because when you're talking about an idea, you have to get up and go to the board and start sketching. And there's some ideas you can't articulate through words. You have to sketch it out and draw a scene or draw a UI or a feeling you have. It's maybe it's the graphic designer in me. I need to visualize it or pull a piece out or.
I think this place is the place where I use Post-its the most, probably too.
Probably, and probably. It's I have a collection of websites and design firms and people who say we're into innovation strategy. I have a collection of Post-it note photos because whenever someone says they're an innovative design group, it is a picture of people standing in front of a wall.
Like a glass wall from the other side and a bunch of Post-its. Yeah.
I have a Slack channel called Hash Whiteboards. And the rule in the office is that you never can erase a whiteboard until you take a photo of it and push it into the Slack channel. Because it always goes beyond like a thought or an idea. It's like I don't know, just like a snapshot of like a story, a journey, a
Moment in time too.
Yeah, a complex
Yeah.
thing. So, but we're trying to recreate that. Has always been a struggle.
I know we prepped a couple AI agents for you, and I know we wanted to do a little bit of an experiment with you.
Yeah.
If you're up for it.
Yeah.
Hopefully we don't end up in the scoring 1 out of 5 on your get scores.
It may depend on the specific.
All right, but you said you loved kind of improvising or just kind of spur of the moment, kind of testing ideas and things like that. And I think Sarah created a few, and I'm not sure how you want to.
Yeah, I have a few videos I can share with you. I was thinking about the Sawyer one, and I was thinking about the Ava one, and then we can do another experiment that we're also going to do tonight too, with QR codes. So I'm going to play it on here.
Yeah.
Hey there, I'm Ava, a skincare consumer persona. I used to live a pretty quiet life. You might have seen me show up on posters in the company hallway, and sometimes I would pop up in a PowerPoint presentation when you were curious about my perspective. And here's the kicker. I couldn't even talk. I wasn't alone. There were thousands of other static profiles just like me trapped in company presentations and slides. But now that I'm a verb, I'm no longer hidden away or just a summary. You can ask me about my skincare routines, brainstorm ideas, think through problems, and build strategy with me. The best part is that I'm powered by thousands of real stories from skincare enthusiasts, all backed by research. I finally have a voice and a way to reach everyone in the company. Build your personas on verbs and see your consumers and team come to life. I feel like this is the way it should have been all along.
So the reason I wanted to share that with you, because I remember working with you years ago where you're like, don't create a persona. But I'm curious how you feel about this with your philosophy of no personas.
Let me talk about old school personas.
Yeah.
Old school meaning before I saw this.
The poster. Yeah.
I mean, let me talk about personas that I thought about yesterday. Well, first of all, there are 8 billion people in the world. My thought is you don't need to invent one. You've got plenty of live people. What I've noticed about personas, one is that they seem to be perfect people. They're always in a good mood. They are very one-dimensional. They always like whatever you do. I've never been to a presentation where the design team said, oh, here's our persona. We showed this to our persona. The persona said it sucked. No. Personas love whatever the design team does. You know, it's perfect for this persona. But the persona can't talk, right? It can't think back, right? And it's also usually it's a combination, some sort of like averaging of several people that they say, here's our person. I have never designed anything for an average person. You need to think about the spectrum. I don't care about the average person. I wouldn't design for the average person. There are no average people. You need to think about, high and low, tall and short, all these different dimensions that actual people have, different moods that they have. So I'm not a fan of personas. What I would say what I would do personally, what I would say to design teams, is go out and find 6 people. You don't need more than 6 people, or at least start with 6 people, because 6 people are real people, and you can talk to them, and they'll give you feedback, and it may work for that person, but not that person, and you can find out why, and you really get a lot more depth when you talk to some real live people. So that's my thought about personas. The other thing I've noticed about personas is that I would watch a design group put a persona together and say, we're going to design it for this persona. Like Susan. We created Susan, and this is who we're designing for. We're designing this thing for Susan. Then the next project would come in and then say, we're designing this for Deborah. And I say, what about Susan?
They're friends.
When it's Susan, why do you need another one? Can't you talk to Susan about it? So you don't want to sell it to Susan? Is she not your friend anymore?
That's the last project.
Yeah, that's the last project. We don't care about her anymore. We're on to Deborah. So they've always baffled me. When I have done this, when I've encouraged people design teams to talk to real people, the mood is so much different. It's so much warmer, and the mood is the mood of the design team is so much different. And we talk in human aspects, like, oh, this person could do it, this person can't. And there's more empathy for actual real people as opposed to these people that are on a slide. I wouldn't suggest designing for Ava, but I would find a number of people to get some depth in opinions and see how they differ, see what's the same, see how they differ. In terms of design or market research, it's a very live way to very easily or readily get started with consumer interviews or consumer. Of course, you can't do a usability study, because they're not actually touching the product or trying it out. So that's one dimension that's you're not going to get from a slide or from Ava, but I think you can get a lot if you talk to enough people that you've compiled. I think it could be an amazingly quick way to kick off a project, or to get your head around what that product or service is going to be about and what kind of reactions you may get from people. Now, I would love it if, and I haven't seen enough of Ava to know, but I would love it if there are things she doesn't like. If she kicks back.
She does.
That's good. Then, yeah. Okay. So now I'm liking Ava because, those slides that you see of personas, like Susan, they don't kick back. They love everything you do.
Yeah.
We showed this to our persona and they loved it. So yeah. So if they're kicking back and you're really having this conversation back and forth, like I did with Gemini, like I said a while ago, where I'm really like kicking these thoughts back and forth and probing, that is totally cool.
Yeah. And that was I feel like I'm looking in a mirror on like the kind of the reason for building them, because, I've been in way too many similar types of projects where people are designing for a fictitious Frankenstein of people, and it's like this doesn't exist. They would actually hate what we're doing, and I wish I wish everybody could talk with that person, because I felt like the research I was doing, if it took too long to do, the business had already moved on, and so the idea of like having 6-week timelines, like anytime anybody mentioned the word research, just something went off internally. We're like, that's too expensive, or it's going to take 6 weeks. And it was like, well, what if it didn't? What if it took 6 minutes? What if it took 6 hours? Would that change your mind and feel more confident that you could actually not like design for, but like design with? And I think those are kind of fundamentally different concepts. And I think what we were trying to build.
Yeah. And also kind of democratizing it too. So moving it beyond just like the researchers, or like when you think about organizations, a lot of that stuff like lives on the research team and no one else touches it. So how can you, give everybody the opportunity to talk to Ava or, the consumer at any time too?
And one of the things that worked really well that we would always do is bring a video of a person reacting, not just a static slide, but have the live, if it's a usability study or whatever, show whoever else is in that room that you're trying to convince or sway or drive the design direction. Show them real people and videos of that you're actually designing for this real person. I worked on a project once where medical equipment, medical product, and they had a group of 1,200 patients that they, surveyed and got information from and got their records, etc. Right? And I said, "That's great. Can you name one?" And they looked at me like, "What do you mean?" I said, 1,200 people. Can you name one? And of course, no, they couldn't. So the idea of saying, here's a real person, here's a videotape, here's, even if it's Ava, you get the sense that, you're designing for a human.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved to use, real people, real people's names. Anonymity is nice, but like it loses the gravity of like, even when you build something and then people use it and it's like, you're like, no, I help this person's life. Like, here they are.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Sometimes you change people's names to keep them anonymous, and then it gets really confusing.
Should we go on to the next?
Yeah.
All right.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Sawyer and I'm a designer who is passionate about universal design. You might be wondering what universal design is. It's about creating a world where everyone feels welcome, where everyone has the opportunity to participate fully, regardless of their abilities or disabilities. It's the idea that we should design environments, products, and services to be usable by as many people as possible, without the need for adaptation or specialized design. I learned that even seemingly insignificant design flaws can create insurmountable barriers for some. Take, for example, a simple door handle. A standard round knob might seem intuitive to most, but for someone with arthritis, it can be a painful and frustrating obstacle. A lever-style handle, on the other hand, requires far less grip strength and can make a world of difference. And it's not just about the physical world. Consider digital experiences. A website with poor color contrast might seem like a minor aesthetic issue, but for someone with low vision, it can render the content completely inaccessible. By simply adjusting the contrast, we can open up a world of information and opportunity. Imagine that a clothing company is launching an inclusive activewear line. The process would involve meticulous attention to fabric selection, garment construction, and innovative features like tactile markings and adjustable elements to accommodate diverse body types and abilities. It's not just about creating clothes that are accessible, it's about fostering a sense of belonging, celebrating diversity, and challenging the fashion industry's often narrow standards of beauty and representation. And that, my friends, is what truly fuels my passion. It's about leveraging the power of universal design to create a world where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued.
So not only are there consumer personas out there, we can kind of bring consumers to life, but these are also like work companions or people that you could bounce ideas off of. We think of them as like experts and different and kind of collaboration partners at work. So just kind of curious about your thoughts on Sawyer. It sounds like you guys have a lot in common, you and Sawyer.
Yeah, I'm warming up to the guy. I think what would get super interesting, I mean, not that it's not interesting now, is continuing the conversation, interacting with Sawyer and say, what about this or what about that? And seeing how Sawyer responds, because that is, now it's like you're working with someone. I also think in terms of an expert, there are people who are not very accessible or instantly accessible to design teams. So if you say, I want to talk to like an orthopedic surgeon.
Mm-hmm. What's the example you always use?
Yeah, biohacker. So like when I was doing a bunch of like work, they're like, does anybody know a biohacker we could talk to? It's like, no. And so like you could design them in 10 seconds and then you could start talking to them. And it just kind of unlocked the next layer of insights and creativity where normally you'd have to like put a pin in it. And then like you couldn't, like, for me at least, I couldn't get further because I was hung up on that barrier that I wanted to go deeper in. And then I could like scratch that itch a little bit and like it could take me someplace completely new. But they couldn't be generic, average. It's not like an internet search. It's like a real expert. And they didn't, they could continue on with you in your project, which was always interesting.
Yeah, we had actually, I got called into a project here at Smart Design a year or so ago, maybe a little bit longer, that was about a medical product. And to kick it off, we would need to speak with surgeons. And, so we contacted the recruiting firm, to find people to come into the study. And instantly it was like $70,000 for not that many people.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Instantly. So the people are inaccessible and expensive. And do we go to them or do they come to us? And, it really is even if you're just going to try to get your feet wet with understanding what that's about, it could be super valuable to have experts like what you're saying here. If somebody wants to understand design, or even hold a conversation with the designer, that conversation, that back and forth conversation could be super valuable.
Sometimes you want to know about something so specific. And so if you can create an agent and have that conversation, go deeper, push it to its limits. And then next bring in another one. I mean, it's just kind of like, it's not just limited to one. You can have as many of these experts on your projects as you want.
Yeah, and you want that. Again, you don't want, you do want that diversity. Well, if you design it for consumers or you design it for people who are going to use the product, you definitely want that diversity. But if you're talking to experts, you may want different opinions as well.
Totally.
So yeah, that would be really brilliant. Mm-hmm. It's also in the back of my mind. I keep thinking personal assistant. I need that.
We're going to build them today.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, that'd be great because there's so much juggling going on. I got to remember this, got to remember that, work for that, don't forget that. I have 2 speeds of email. I either answer someone immediately or 3 weeks later.
Welcome to the club.
And it's random. I either put the email aside, I can't
it's
write
not
it
random.
down.
You know how you decide, right?
Do you have a thought of how I do it?
You? Well, I mean, there's certain things that like...
No, if the person can get a short answer, I mean, very often it is, I'll get back to you later. I'll look at this tomorrow. But no, there are some things that I'm just like, my mind says here, I see the email, I put it aside, and then it just sits there for a while.
That's why I text you.
That's a good idea. It's a good idea. So yeah, I think also in terms of like personal assistant, and especially if that personal assistant gets to know you a little bit better. Still, there is this, I don't want to say creepy. What should I say about it? The fact that I'm talking to a person. First, I got a very early Alexa because there was like a special, like a pre-sale, pre-announcement. We're going to have Alexa, and it was like half the price, which I think instead of $200, it was $99. So I said, great, I'll sign up. And then, months later, it showed up, and I realized what was interesting about Alexa is it occurred one morning. So Alexa's sitting in my kitchen, and it occurred one morning where I was late for something. I was getting dressed really hurriedly. I was in it, and I ran down the steps. I didn't go in the kitchen. I just ran down the steps. I yelled in the kitchen. I said, Alexa, what's the weather today? And Alexa answered, and I said, that was really weird. I am yelling at a thing that is not human, and I must have at this point accepted Alexa into my life because, it was just seamless that I would do that. And I ran upstairs. I didn't think about it until I'm upstairs. I said, what did I just do?
Yeah.
So I think, personal assistants and once they get to know you or remembers, hey, you told me to remind you about this, or you got this email 3 weeks ago. That would also be, to me, like a use of an expert, like an expert personal assistant.
Yeah.
Should we do the last one?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can imagine the QR code like that on a product. And this enables it could be a product, it could be an experience, it could be a place, it could be your house, it could be the Airbnb that you're staying in, but you could now talk to it and have a conversation. This particular one was trained Mr. Peel with the fundamentals of universal design. It was about the history of Sam designing the peeler and for inclusivity. So it's got a lot of, it knows the materials, it knows like all of that type of stuff. So you could essentially, as a consumer, if you're in Bed Bath & Beyond and you're, thinking about purchasing the peeler, you could scan it and then start to talk to it.
So at the bottom, if you click on the,
you can start to have a
then you can ask
conversation.
questions if you want to.
Okay. Can I do that now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Can I do it by voice?
Yeah.
Mr. Peel, what are your favorite vegetables to peel? Well, as Mr. Peel, I'm just a humble kitchen helper. I love peeling all kinds of vegetables, from smooth potatoes to crunchy carrots and even tough-skinned butternut squash. I'm ready to tackle them all. But if I had to choose, yeah. Okay. I'd say my favorites are cucumbers and zucchini. They peel so easily, and their thin skins make the most delightful ribbons for salads and garnishes. What are some of your favorite vegetables to prepare? Maybe we can share some peeling tips. Okay, now he's becoming my friend.
Want to ask for something else?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the things that you find as a peeler most difficult to peel? Oh, that's a funny question. You see, I'm Mr. Peel, and while I may be the best peeler around, I don't actually peel things myself. All right, let me get a technical thing. I'm a tool that helps people peel, and I'm designed to make it as easy as possible. Is there anything you find difficult to peel? He's turning on me. I'm always happy to share tips and tricks to make peeling easier for everyone.
All right, one last question.
Okay. If I bought you in a store, what other products should I buy to complement my purchase? That's a great question. Oh, look, it's all about the same company. Oh, Mr. Peel is biased. Mr. Peel's a salesperson.
He's a loyalty, brand loyalty.
Yeah, Mr. Peel is very brand loyal to his brand. That's a great question. Since we're all about making kitchen life easier and more accessible, I'd recommend these buddies to join our team. I'm getting suspicious. OXO Good Grips Mixing Bowl Set, Y Peeler, Flexible Cutting Mats. Remember, at OXO, we believe in universal design, so our products are crafted with everyone in mind. We want to make sure everyone feels confident and comfortable in the kitchen.
So you get the gist of like how this could work, but you could imagine it on, and also it's all about how it's trained, right? That, different companies can train their products in different ways. They could be like more friendly, combative, really like whatever their brand essence. Give them the personality that you want. Your thoughts on it, but also like what should we keep in mind as we're starting to explore this space of enabling things to talk?
Thinking about design from the other side, these inanimate objects coming back to you, could be super interesting.
How so?
There's always like a classic exercise, like if you were kitchen gadgets, what would you be thinking? There's sort of like these creative exercises, which sometimes go nowhere. But it's like, if you were that.
Doing body storming as a peeler.
Where would you sit? Where would you sit? Where would people store you?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you kind of put yourself in the things position, the things perspective. But having these things talk back to you and answer questions, it sounds like it could be like super interesting. It sounds also like, again, like with the other examples, it's about the conversation and what would be realized during that conversation. So what you get in this back and forth conversation with these inanimate objects could be pretty fascinating. So I am super interested to try it in a real world, a real example situation.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm thinking about design or redesign or other products that were complemented, or what would I'd have to think about the situation. I'd really have to think about the situation. But I think the conversation part of it is where the most interesting part is going to come in, when you actually start a dialogue, not just like a one-off question.
Yeah. Yeah, we started to have interesting conversations around, like, if your house could talk, what would it tell you? And just like all the information around maintenance and the HVAC system and the
like
stories.
When was that replaced, or when was
the stories that happen within it, and when you're selling it, that you could talk to somebody else's house if they gave you access to do that. it's like there's all these invisible stories in places and things, but they're, we only have a mouth or like the written word. There's not like an interface for the invisible stuff yet. It feels like there could be. That's what kind of scratching at the surface a little bit around.
Well, realizing kind of the Internet of Things in a way, and making them talkable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think too that, a lot of times you have a product and if you want to figure out how to use it, you go to YouTube. But you kind of wish you could talk to the product and say, how do you work? Or
right.
What's your red button for? Why doesn't this thing fit? Why doesn't this click together? And so it'd be interesting from a instructional point of view, or help me use this thing point of view. That may be more interesting if it's not just a simple gadget or a simple tool or something. But having that product tell you how to use it or give you tips on how to use it in a dialogue, that'd be crazy interesting.
Yeah. And I'd love your take on this, but like as a designer, you have certain things that you can use at your disposal to communicate a story or communicate a product. It's like aesthetics and the weight of it, but now if like voice and personality and the intelligence that you have, or like it just, I don't know, just started to introduce these different dimensions that I could design things with. Because like a shoe was just a shoe, and so it's just like all in aesthetics, but that shoe has stories, it has designers behind it, it has materials, it like has been places, it fought, it went through all these things. But now if you can use personality as a mechanic to launch something new or like create a different experience, it just feels like such a interesting dimension that like hasn't necessarily been explored.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you had to use marketing as a way to try to like be the personality, where the product was separate from it in many, many cases. So
it's very interesting that, for a very long time, people talk to their computers like, it doesn't like me. My computer doesn't like me today, or it's being difficult with me today. They give their products personality. One of the things that we've done, I'm thinking back now, this project that I worked with at Smart, is when you make the product look friendly or look like a little character or look like it has some sort of, what a good example is a like a Mini Cooper. A Mini Cooper is cute. And it's got little ears, it's got big eyes, it's got a cute little mouth, it's a little fat body. Mini Cooper is cute. So you look at a Mini Cooper, what you're doing is you're projecting these instinctive traits that you have because you're human, and these signals that say, well, this little fat body, these big eyes, and these cute little ears, that defines cute, right? And it's, it goes back to instinct. So I think drawing on things like that in terms of thinking about products or thinking about design, it's going to be the dialogue that's super interesting. So my mind is spinning about different ways to deal with this, or to use this, right? Or to get out of this. And I think there are just a whole lot that is a little bit mind-boggling as an instant response. The other thing I'm thinking is that you can talk to let's go back to like a kitchen product here. We could talk about a knife in your kitchen here, but then talk to a knife in Japan and see how a knife in Japan differs from, and you don't have to go to Japan to talk to the knife. You can just like virtually talk. So get different opinions. You can do like global research from the product's point of view, from the person's point of view as well, which is also like super interesting. What does my German verb think about it? One of the most differentiated groups that I spoke with was males in Germany versus females in Japan. They were as far apart on the spectrum as you can get in terms of their opinions. But that sort of thing would be super interesting to do, and it'd be super interesting to do it from the product's point of view.
Yeah.
Like,
It was like it's interesting dimension of just like combating like fast fashion, or like every product is disposable. But when you start to humanize them a little bit more, do they become not so disposable? They, it's like your favorite shirt you've had forever. Like you would never throw it away because it has all that like soaked into it. Whereas like fast fashion is just like momentary, like I don't care, I can throw it away. But when it starts to take on more, like it's hard to throw people away.
Yeah.
Like, without being so like
it's pretty
extreme
difficult.
about it.
It's pretty difficult.
Yeah. And so, is that is that a dimension that like our world needs right now around like consumerism, and that we can have attachments to our products. If we have attachments to our products and our spaces and our things, then does that make us need more of everything?
Yeah, that's a good point. I wonder if that would lead to less waste. I wonder if there's a sustainability thread going through that. Because I had a conversation a long time ago I'm sorry if I go off on a tangent here. I had a conversation a long time ago with a designer at Bentley, Rolls-Royce Bentley. He was a car designer, Rolls-Royce Bentley. And he said to me, Bentleys are the most ecologically sound cars out there. I'm saying, you got to be kidding. It's a Bentley. The gas mileage sucks on a Bentley, right? But he said, yeah, but you don't throw them away.
Yeah.
The gas that you use in a car, in terms of the energy along the lifespan of the car, is the gas itself is the fuel itself is a fraction of the energy that it takes to make a car, right? Along a 10-year lifespan, the fuel is still less. And so I guess what you're triggering is, I wonder if that relationship to the product would enhance longevity of the product, because you don't want to throw it away, because it's my little kitchen gadget friend.
Yeah, you don't want to throw Trevor out.
Yeah, especially if the car talks to you. Hey, don't throw me away. Wait.
Feel guilty.
Please don't throw me in the trash. Oh, I like it here.
All right. So to wrap up, you've seen kind of how you can talk to inanimate objects. You could talk to potential new kind of like innovation partner, but also talk to people and personas. I'm curious your thoughts on how this may transform the design process.
I think it's going to be organic. Once people start using it, I think there are going to be some expected and unexpected ways that people will be using it. I do think the obvious thing is what we spoke about already. Like, in terms of understanding the people that you're designing for, this is a no-brainer way to do it. Let's have the conversation. In terms of thinking about people across a spectrum, whether it's, gender, males, females, non-binary, or you're talking about countries, like locations, people living in different climates, people with different levels of ability. I think, that it's seamless that you could do this, at least get started doing it without great expense, or without all the things that you have to do to actually travel or reach those people or recruit those people. So I think that's one super interesting aspect of it. The fact that the products may be talking to you, that's still a little mind-blowing. Got to think about that. Again, limitations are you can't do a usability study. So it does have some things that it can and can't do. But I think in terms of getting into a topic, whether you're talking about medical equipment or kitchen gadgets or some sort of expert power tools or something, I think this is super useful. I think it will really change things. One of the things that is interesting about the world of design is that there's not a lot of, I shouldn't say this because people will shoot me for it. There's not a lot of written information. Like, there are master's programs in design where people are writing about design, and there are PhDs in design. That's more popular, more prominent in Europe than in the US. But that group is publishing. There are design journals and there are, papers and, research studies that are published. And that could also be a source of information for the verbs, is that these experts or these research studies that are, public knowledge, because PhDs get published, would also be super interesting to make that more accessible than it would be if you actually had to sit down and read those PhD reports, which could be like 100 pages long, and probably not even in the radar scope when you're doing research to go that route and look for who else knows what about this product. But the verb can do that automatically as, because that's what they are designed and able to do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us. This is really fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for experimenting with us.
Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me.
Well, that was an awesome interview. I really enjoyed that conversation, talking to him about personas, because, through my career, I've always kept it, in the back of my mind that Dan taught me, it's really difficult to design to personas because the personas are living in these static places, and it's taking all of these people, these wonderful stories, and taking all these people and putting it into this static thing that like lives on a wall or lives in a presentation. Yeah. And so his thing was really about throughout my career, he's always like, talk to real people with extremes. And so it was really cool to have that conversation with him about personas and how they capture all of those stories, and they're living, and they're, they can talk to you about all the different people that like make them up. And so I was, it was like a surprise and delight, I think, talking to Dan about that, because I didn't know how he would react. And I thought that was a really, it was good. It was great. It was really cool. And, somewhat validating to hear from someone that's been spending his career doing this type of work, and also seeing how powerful a consumer persona agent could be.
Yeah, I agree. And I love this, unplanned, but kind of the approach we're taking where just kind of test ideas in real time with, out in the public, like with people, and get reactions, and, even with people that are coming on. So I hope this is like something we continue to do, because there's just so much learning in the feedback loop. Totally. And so if any listeners have additional questions that you want us to, ask, look through as we have upcoming episodes, or like our year in review, or, just thoughts and ideas of like what we should do next. We're all ears. So, or all AI, I don't know. AI ears.
AI ears. All right. Remember to subscribe and check us out on the road, verve.com/events. And we're going to be in Los Angeles the week of December 16th.
December 16th. Yeah. So for anybody who's listening, and, we're taking on a lot of new customer and private meetings next week in LA. So if you want us to stop by, Sarah and I, to share more about what we're working on, how your team can use agents in lots of different ways, just drop us a line. So you can reach out to me, chat@verve.com, or hit us up on LinkedIn. We'd love to meet up with you in LA.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of AI Powered by People. The show is produced by Steve Berkowitz and brought to you by Verve. Thanks for listening. We'll be back next Tuesday.